welcome to another video here on my channel Morbid History. Today is actually a very spontaneous video because it's the 13th of December today, and here in Sweden we have a very important tradition which is quite weird because we're pretty atheist over here. But today is a very Christian holiday. Even though we don't celebrate the Christian aspects, it's become more like a cozy tradition. I'm gonna tell you all about that soon, and also the bloody history behind it. Before we get into that, thank you all for being here. You're awesome, and it's such a blessing to have so many people come in, watch, and even better if you throw in a like for the algorithm and comment if you have something fun to say. I love comments, and subscribe also if you like my whatever it is I do here. So today I'm gonna talk about the Swedish tradition called Lucia. During Lucia, today in modern times, they celebrate in school, in churches, basically everywhere. It entails children in schools dressing up as Lucia, and there's her maidens and some other creatures like tomtenissar, the whole shebang. And they walk in a procession and sing some songs to the people who wanna watch. There's always one person that gets chosen as the Lucia. That is based upon the martyr, the Catholic martyr, Saint Lucia. This type of the modern day Lucia got really popular by the end of the 18th century. People would dress up as Lucia and bring some coffee and lussekatter into the sleeping dad or mom in the household, and they would sing the Swedish song Sankta Lucia. Either way, like I said, today most Swedes don't think about the background to Lucia. More just see it as a cozy tradition that's been handed down for a few hundred years. The first mention of this kind of Lucia was actually sometime in the 1700s back then sometime, and even in the 12th to 1300s we have mention of Saint Lucia. The reason why Lucia has become such a big thing even since the Middle Ages in Sweden is because in the old calendar the 13th of December fell on the darkest night of the year, and here in Sweden it's very dark. Like, our days are super short and our nights are very long. And Saint Lucy was like the saint of light, and also blind people. We'll get to that, but they saw her like a bringer of light, and that kinda started this cult following of her, like way back. She basically symbolized the light that would come back in the darkest Swedish winter. and that's what she still does today. Lucia is usually a person that comes forward in this procession with a big crown on her head with lights. Today there are electric lights because people don't want to burn. And she wears a white gown and around her waist a red sash. So now we might have to go into the legend of Saint Lucy, or Sancta Lucia, to explain the symbolism. Saint Lucy, I'm gonna call her that now, was born like around 200 after death, and she was a very, very beautiful girl, but she was also very Christian, and that wasn't a good thing. Where she lived, she was a Roman Christian. She came from a very rich family, and they of course wanted to marry her off. The problem was that Lucy did not want to do that. She wanted to give up her life for Jesus and Christianity or whatever you did, and not marry. She wanted to stay a virgin for the rest of her life. That made people angry, very, very angry. Christianity was very much frowned upon, and the man who wanted to marry her was of course one of those people who didn't approve. There's many legends now about, so it's hard to know exactly what happened, but in one of the stories there was actually a prince who wanted to marry her, and he wanted to marry her because her eyes were so beautiful. So she ended up gouging her own eyes out to make the prince not want to marry her. This enraged the whole population, and a witch hunt started on her, basically just because she was Christian. And they wanted to put her to death, as they did in those Roman times. They tried everything. They said that they tried to drag her away from where she stood. Not even like 50 men could move her, and they even brought in a couple of oxes to drag her, but she was like stuck in place. They tried to throw some wood at her and putting her on fire, and the flames didn't touch her. But at last she got a sword either into her neck or her stomach, and in the end she passed away. And of course, stuff like this would make people into martyrs and saints, and that's what happened. So then she became the saint for blind people and a bunch of other stuff. Iconography of her, you usually see her holding like a plate of her own hands, and she has either like a sword into her throat. There were also legends that when she was alive, she would help the Christians that were hiding in the catacombs, the dark catacombs, by bringing them food on a plate, and she would wear some kind of, I wouldn't say a crown, but a thing on her head with a light on it so she could see. And of course they brought these distinguishing features into our Lucia today, with the crown, with the lights on them, and also the red sash around the waist is supposed to symbolize her blood, which wasn't what I imagined when I was a kid and dressed up as Lucia. But yeah, that's kind of creepy. Either way, we can say that Lucia, or Lussinatta, was one of those pagan things. Like, people celebrated they celebrated midwinter just like would they celebrate midsummer. It was a time when dark would turn into light. So St. Lucy's Day fell very good into those like celebrations, and you know that Christianity, when they came to Sweden and places everywhere, they usually took something that was already there and Christianized it. So before Christianity came, midwinter or midwinter was seen as a scary time when supernatural things would happen, animals would talk, and you shouldn't be going outside. So they came with Lucia. The name Lucia actually derives from the Latin word lux, which means light. So she was the bringer of light, and therefore it became like a festival of light. It also became like the start of fast until Christmas. So of course they ate and ate and ate a lot during Lucia. So it's not weird that it became one of the most cherished and loved traditions for so many years, like hundreds of years here in Sweden, and developed into the Lucia that we have today. So yeah, thank you all for watching this very spontaneous short video about Lucia. It's a weird tradition, especially since we're not very Christian at all over here in Sweden. I myself I haven't even known a Christian person actually in my entire life that I know of. I'll hopefully be able to post another video this week. I'm right now trying to write down a good script for the Norse afterlife. So that's coming up. And I'm gonna continue vlogging on my Patreon. And yeah, I wanna thank my Patreons as I always do, and I'm gonna put them up here. You're the best, you're the best. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. All the money that I get on my Patreon goes to buying subscriptions for my editing software and just making the videos better, of course, because it's not cheap. So kisses to my Patrons and kisses to all of you. Mwah! And I'll see you next time. Like, comment, subscribe. Help my channel. Thank you. Bye bye.